Okay, so now we're going to talk about the accessory structures. ACCESS. Structures. And you are intimately familiar with pretty much every one of these. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the nails. We're going to start with the nails. Okay, so the nails. Okay, where do you find them? You find them at the ends of fingers and toes. Okay, and so what are they there for? They're protective coverings, and they're also there to claw somebody. You know, well, not me. I don't have really nails, but people who do have long nails, they're pretty sharp. You know, you can gouge some skin out with nails. So they're there, protection. You know, fight, and they're to protect the sensitive end of the fingers and the toes themselves. Okay, so every nail has 3 basic parts. Okay, so the parts. So everyone has this thing called a nail plate. Okay, nail plate. And what the nail plate is just the part that lies over the nail bed. So if we look at a finger, so let's say we draw a finger right here. Okay, and then we're going to draw here. So let's draw something like it. Okay, so here's our nail. And then you have this terrible thing that we don't like. It's called the cuticle. This is the cuticle right here. Okay. And then you have this half moon thing right here. Kind of weird half moon thing. Okay. The main part of the nail, this is the plate. Okay. So it just goes over the nail bed. Okay. The nail bed itself. Okay. And that brings us to our second part, the nail bed. Okay. That is just the skin under the nail. Okay, that's all you got it. Okay, and then finally the third part, you have what's called the lunula. Okay, and this is the growing part of the nail. Okay, it's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit thicker because we have, and that's why it appears white. It's a little bit thicker, okay. But that's just the growing part of the nail, and the reason it's called lunula because it's half moon shaped, and it's at the base of the nail plate. And everybody has one, okay. And this would be the lunula, right here. That's the little half moon shape right there, okay. All right, so if we look from the side, so if we take a look at the nail from the side, so we got our finger right here. The bone, your finger bone sits almost right underneath your nail, and the nail comes over just like this. That's how the nail grows. Let's paint the nails. Let's make them sexy red. See? So that's how the nail grows. Okay, so here we have the plate right here. Here's the bed right underneath it. That's the skin underneath the bed. Okay, and then you can't see it from this side, but you have the lunula. And I'm going to label this anyway. I think it's really important. The cuticle. Okay, so what the cuticle is, it's actually just some tissue. It's not important you know what tissue it is. That actually attempts to cover the lunula, you know, to give it some protection. But that's not what we do, man. Cuticles are freaking ugly, and we push those things way back, therefore exposing the cuticle itself. Okay, so that's nails. Oh, actually, finally, what are the nails made out of? What are nails actually made out of? They are made. What are they? They are keratin. Keratin. I'm probably going to spell it wrong. I'm having a horrible name with keratin. Let me make sure I spell keratin correctly. Keratin. They are made of keratin. keratin. And there are two types of keratin. There's this hard keratin and there's soft keratin. Okay, soft keratin is on your skin. This is hard keratin. Hard keratin. I always want to spell keratin with an I. Well, two I's. K-E-R-I. It's keratin, not keratin. Keratin. Okay, so that's nails. Right? So moving on. Hair. Hair. Okay. So hair. Okay, the first thing I want you to remember this is hair is an epidermal derivative. Okay, it is made up of the same cell types that your epidermis is. Epidermis is. So if you notice when I've drawn our skin, when I've drawn our our skin slab, I've drawn wave, and I've always drawn something going in like this. Okay, this part right here, see this right here? This is where my hair is going to go. That's where we're going to draw some green hair. So basically, the hair comes from the epidermis. Hair comes from the epidermis. Okay, so it's an epidermal derivative. Remember how I said that these accessory structures live in the dermis? They do. If you look at where hair actually is in the skin, it's actually in the dermis. But the epidermis is actually what makes it. And what this is called, this right here, this thing is called an invagination. It is an invagination of the epidermis into the dermis itself. Okay, all right. So where do we find hair? You find hair everywhere there is thin skin. Anywhere there's thin skin. So it is only found on thin skin. And I'm going to change that on to in. It is only found in thin skin. So where do you not find it? This is where it's easy. It's easy to say we have hair everywhere except. Everywhere except. Bam. The palms. The soles. Okay. Palms and the soles. Now, if you read your textbooks, a lot of people will say the lips and then a lot of people say the lips and the nipples. You will not find hair on the lips and nipples. That's not necessarily true. Okay, that's not necessarily true. Okay, I have seen people who have hair follicles coming out of their lips. It's not like present like everywhere on the skin, but you can occasionally get a hair follicle on the lips. And you can have hair follicles on the nipples, on the nipples. Okay, I've seen that as well. It's very rare, but it can. So we can say, I'm going to put a little star, the lips and the nipples. Okay, lips and the nipples. And usually, typically, not the labia minora or glans penis. Okay, so labia minora, the smaller of the vaginal labia, and the glans penis is the tip of the penis. Typically, you will not find hair there. I have not seen that, but I'm pretty sure that there's some abnormalities that you'll find that. Okay, all right. So the basic structure of hair. So the structure of hair is we have this thing called a hair follicle. Okay, the hair follicle. Okay, and this contains the cells that grow hair. Okay, that's basically what the hair follicle is. Okay, so when we've drawn this, I've drawn that weird wiggle there, and we drew this here. This is the hair follicle. So this is the hair follicle. Okay, these are epidermal cells that make the hair. Okay, so there are three main parts to our hair follicle itself. We've got what's called the bulb. Okay, and this is where we have our dividing cells. Okay, this is where the cells are, the bulb. Then you have the root, and then you have the shaft. You have the shaft itself. Okay, and these are dead epidermal cells. Okay, they've been keratinized. They've been keratinized themselves. Okay, now what is it? It is keratin. It is hard keratin. That's what your hair is. Your hair is hard keratin. Hard keratin itself. Okay, so in lab, we'll take a look at this and you'll see the parts of the hair. Okay, that's it. A neat thing about hair is each hair gets its own little blood supply. Yeah, each little hair gets its own artery. Each little hair gets its own vein. Yeah, they get their own blood supply, each one. Yeah, so they got the papilla, the hair papilla, that thing that branches down, that actually has its own blood supply. So if you lose the blood supply, you're going to lose the hair. So that's it. Okay. Now, the next thing, since we're here, we're going to talk about hair. So we're going to draw our epidermis. We're going to draw this a little bit longer like this. Attached to hair, many times is a muscle. Is a muscle. This is called the erector pili. P-I-L-I. Erector pili. Okay. It is smooth muscle that you can't control, but what it will do when it contracts, it will tug on the hair follicle and it will actually cause hair to stand on end. That's all it is. Okay. And it will cause a puckering of the skin, so it gives you the appearance of goosebumps. Okay, so that's it. So the erector pili muscle is responsible for that. Okay. So we're going to look at our glands. We're going to take a look at our glands next. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to talk about the sebaceous glands. The sebaceous glands. Okay, these are a special thing called a holocrine gland. Okay, and holocrine means the cell, the gland. Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. The cell destroys itself to produce the secretion. Okay. So holocrine glands. So when these glands, their job is to produce secretions. That's what a gland does. Produces some type of secretion. And there are several ways that a cell can release that secretion. Holocrine glands, the cell is destroyed and the secretion is released along with the dead cellular material. Okay. So these sebaceous glands, they produce this stuff called sebum. Sebum. Okay, they produce sebum. Sebum. And so basically sebum is a white, it's got a whitish color, okay? And basically what it does is it softens the skin. Okay? It softens your skin. It waterproofs hair. Skin and hair. Okay. Skin and hair itself. So basically it's like the oil of the skin. That's the best way to think about it. It's the oil of the skin. Okay. And they're typically associated with hair follicles. Okay, so here we're going to draw our thing again. We're going to draw our epidermis. We're going to draw a vagination down here, but we're going to do something different. We're going to draw a pouch like this. And so we got our hair follicle. Our hair is going to come in like this, our hair follicle, and our hair is going to come out. Now what we have here, we're going to draw it in blue, is we have a gland. Okay, this gland right here. This is the sebaceous gland. there. That's our sebaceous gland. And what that sebaceous gland is going to do is going to make this sebum, and it's going to travel up the root. It's going to travel up the hair follicle, and it will lubricate the hair, and it's going to lubricate the skin. Okay. Again, we'll see this on the model in lab. Okay. Now, one of the things that your book gets incredibly wrong is they say that when you produce too much sebum, you get acne, which is total bullshit. Okay. Acne is a bacterial infection of the sebaceous gland. Okay. It has nothing to do with how much or how little the sebaceous gland produces. Okay. Now, is it typical that people who have oily skin tend to have acne? Yes, you clog those pores, but clogged pores is not going to make you have acne. It just means you have clogged pores. Now, if you have bacteria in there, it causes an infection, then you're going to get acne. Okay, so that's what it is. I want you to take that nonsense that the textbook is telling you and just throw that out. It's actually bacterial. It's Propionibacterium acnes. That's actually the thing that causes it. So, sebaceous glands, they oil the skin. We got a couple more glands we're going to talk about. Okay, we have our sweat glands. Okay, so we have two types of sweat glands. Okay, so we have our sweat glands. So did I put a one next to it? No. Sweat glands. Oops, that's black. I want black, not blue. Our sweat glands. Sweat glands. Okay, so they're called sudoriferous glands. Sudoriferous glands. Okay, they're found everywhere in the skin. Okay, again, they are just like, let me write this down here. Sebaceous glands, epidermal derivatives. Okay, they come from the epidermis. Okay, just like sudoriferous gland are also epidermal derivatives. Okay, all right. Where are they located? They're located in the dermis. Okay, and they could be coils, or they could have like almost a sebaceous shape. Okay, so we have two types of sweat glands. Okay, we have it's called the eccrine sweat glands. Okay, they're also called merocrine sweat glands. Okay, and these respond to body temperature. Okay, that's what their job is. So what that is a negative feedback loop. Okay, so let's talk about body temperature real quickly. Okay, so body temperature, we're calling that BT, is monitored by the structure in the brain called the hypothalamus. Okay, it's called the hypothalamus. Okay. And let's just say you have an increase in temperature. So in here, we got an input that says increased body temperature. Okay. Okay, that's going to go into the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is going to be like, dude, your body temperature is too high. So what it's going to do, the hypothalamus is going to send a signal to your blood vessels. And it's going to send a signal to the skin. Okay. Now, the blood vessels, what it's going to say, it's going to say dilate. It's going to say dilate the blood vessels. What that means is there's going to be more blood going through the blood vessels of the skin. And to the skin, it's going to say sweat. Okay. Now, when you have more blood going through the blood vessels, that means you're getting more heat to the skin. So if you have like people who are hot, you can actually feel heat radiating off them. That's because they have more blood flowing to the skin. And then you have sweat that's rolling down your skin. So what that water is doing, it's actually absorbing some of that heat that's being radiated off. Okay. And then when wind blows, it evaporates that heat off. So what sweat is, it is a place where you can actually store heat. Okay. That's what it is. That's what the sweat does. It actually pulls the heat from your skin so that it can be evaporated out later. Okay, and so what that's going to do, this will cause a decrease in body temperature. Okay, and what that will do is that will turn the hypothalamus off. That will say, okay, we're back down to normal. Okay, so that's called a negative feedback loop. We'll talk more about those when we talk about the endocrine system itself. Okay, so those are the eccrine sweat glands. Okay, they usually on isolation by themselves. So if we draw our skin here, so let's draw our skin. Okay, here's our epidermis. Okay, and we're going to draw it in green. The eccrine sweat gland is like this coiled tube that just like pokes its head out to the surface. Okay, and that's a merocrine or an eccrine sweat gland. Okay, then the other sweat gland we have, we have these things called an apocrine sweat gland. So number 2 is an apocrine. Okay, this is the nasty one. This is the gross one. Where do you find these? In the axillary region. Axillary or groin region. Actually, another thing, another place you're going to find them is you find these on the nipples as well. Nipples. You'll find them in nipples. But pretty much here, remember that you find them underneath your armpits and in your groin, basically around the genitals themselves. Okay, and so what they do is they release this clear secretion, and what a lot of people think that it is pheromones. Okay, but the interesting thing about this is usually they call these are the smelly ones. These are the smelly glands. Okay, their secretions actually aren't smelly. Okay, it's the bacteria when it gets a hold of those secretions that actually make it smelly. Okay, and these are activated at puberty. Okay, so they are under the influence of androgens / estrogens. Okay, so these are our puberty things. That's like when you know if you have a boy and they're of the age when they're going through puberty and they just stink. There you go. Here's your answer. Same thing with girls. Girls. People think girls don't smell. It's like bullshit. Okay, girls can stink too. Okay, they get underarm funk just like anybody else. Anybody else does. So the reason they get that is, what helps get that is these apocrine sweat glands. Okay, so now the apocrine sweat glands, a lot of times they are also associated with the hair shaft, but it's not important. You just have to know that they exist. Actually, no. Remember hair shaft. With hair follicle. Okay, so we'll do it in blue. So what we can do here is we can have another coiled, and both of these are coiled, but this will drain out of the hair shaft. So remember, the hair is going to come out here like this. This will be where hair comes out like that. So here is our eccrine. Okay, and here is our apocrine. Okay, so if you see that, the sweat gland that is associated with the hair follicle, that would be your apocrine sweat gland. The sweat gland that is not associated with the hair follicle and found all over the body, that would be an eccrine sweat gland. Okay, so pretty simple. It's not so much. Okay, so two further glands that we're going to talk about. We have one for earwax, ceremonis. This is earwax, found in the ear canal. And here, I think this one, the mammary gland. I think this is much more important than pretty much any other one. And it is for milk production. And I don't know why that people don't teach the breast as a skin, because it's a modified sweat gland. It really is. So it should be taught in the skin section, but no, we have to hold that off until the reproductive system, because I guess some person made the assumption that women can't have kids unless they have boobs, and so that's where they put it. So I have no idea. So we won't be talking about it here. We'll be talking about the mammary gland when we get to the reproductive system itself. All right, so that's it. 25 minutes longer than I wanted to go, but that is it. Those are the structures of the skin. So now we're just going to talk about what the skin does and burns, and then we will be done with the skin.